All right, we're back at it on the Success Flow podcast with a real treat for you. This has been in the works for a while, and special guest today, one of the many stallions that have been on from our Gento Men's group, just a great human being. We have Jereme Kleven on the podcast today, and we are super pumped to have you here. Kleven, how you doing today?
Doing well, fellas. Happy New Year to you guys. Happy New Year to everybody else out there, too. Thank you for having me.
Happy New Year, man. Before we get started, though, Phil, you've called us stallions for a long time. Where does that come from? Why do you call us stallions? You're the only person that calls me a stallion.
Because we're running hard, man. We're wild, but
young and wild and
trying
free.
to stay a little bit tame.
There you go.
Yeah. We got bisons. We got all kinds of spirit animals in Gento, but I like stallions.
All right, that works. Well, Kleven, happy to have you on, man. I know you got a really cool story, professional, personally. You're also really good at poker. You kick all of our ass every year in Summit, and you won our Gento poker event, our first annual. So, kick us off, man. Like, real estate's a big industry. Before we get into all the the ins and outs of that and what you've done and where you're at with the accomplishments that you had. I mean, you've won tons of awards. It's incredible. Actually, some of them I just found out preparing for this pod. I'm like, damn, this guy, I don't know. Sometimes you forget about the room that you're in and you look at these people and you're like, holy shit. So I'm excited to get into that. But you're from the Bay Area, moved to Arizona, you're small, went to ASU. Take us back a little bit. What got you into entrepreneurship? And was that something you were born with, or is that something that just work ethic? How'd you grow up?
I love that question, right? I ask people that same very question so often. Did you find it? Or were you born with it? You discover it? And I think that's like a fascinating question, not just because you're asking me and I like it too, just, to find out for people as well. Like, is it in your core? Is it in your gut? Or did you discover it and kind of have an awakening? And it's a hard answer, right? Like, I think personally that I had it in my core, in my gut. My old man, my dad wasn't the smartest guy, and I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but one thing he taught me was to get up every day and go to work and be committed and be consistent. And to me, that's the deal. Like, and especially in this era right now, to me, consistency is the new currency. And those that are consistent are the ones that are getting paid and they're getting the results, and it's not going to happen overnight. So turning back the clock, I jumped into the real estate game at 20 years old. The school thing, it wasn't for me. The school thing wasn't for me. I just, meanwhile, I try to tell my kids, you need to go to school, you need to learn, you need to focus and all the things, right?
Right.
But it wasn't for me. I was fumbling around college, pretending to go to school. And I just jumped right in the real estate industry. I grabbed my buddy at the time that I grew up with, and I said, "Hey, what do we think about going to get our license?" Next thing we know, man, we're hustling, we're working, and that's all it was for me. It was just like, let's just go work. And I saw an opportunity to, go make a living, go make some money, and jumped in. Like I said, I was 20 years old, 21, had just turned 21 actually when I jumped in the industry. And I knew I didn't know a thing, so I had to get some coaching and training, and that was kind of where I started.
Love that. And I think that we just already nailed the title of this podcast. Consistency is the new currency is a banger. And I like to say focus is the new IQ, and those go hand in hand, and you hit focus right after that. I think that speaks a lot to your environment too, right? All three of us are here in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, real estate, being around the, what is our, in my opinion, primary business in the city, and you jumping on that at a young age has a huge impact on the direction you go. When you went to go get that license and that conversation with your buddy, was that would you consider it impulse? How much calculation was in it, or was it a combination?
I don't know that I had a lot of, when you talk about focus and clarity at that time, I didn't really have that at that time, right? I think I just said it was just something that I kind of saw an opportunity with, and saw an opportunity to make, money and revenue and make an income. And I didn't have a vision or really clarity around that, and that's another thing, right? Phil, Steven, like I talk a lot about that, having a clarity and kind of seeing the vision of what it is you're trying to do and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so again, it's kind of going back to your original question. It's kind of a hybrid between, I think that you have to have that in your heart and soul to a degree. And then if you can find that clarity somewhere along the way, and it's difficult, don't get me wrong. It's hard for us, I think, as human beings, as men, whatever it is, to say, like, this is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I'm going to do and exactly what I'm going to achieve. But we had eventually found that as well in terms of wanting to grow the brokerage and kind of go on the offensive. So, if you can kind of parlay those two with a burning desire and work ethic, and then have some clarity around exactly what you're trying to achieve, I think that, that could be a recipe for success right there.
Yeah, I think I kind of look at decades, like in your 20s, early college years, and maybe getting into your late 20s. I think there is merit to not having that clarity, and you're just throwing spaghetti noodles at the wall, and you're going balls to the wall. You're just trying to figure it all out. And I feel like if you already have that clarity and you pigeonhole yourself to that one thing, and you're almost a little bit ignorant or a little bit, you're naive to the fact that, like, I'm just going to go work hard and bust my butt and figure out where it goes from here. And then once you see some success, then you kind of have that clarity and alignment. And I feel like that happens later in your 30s and 40s. And then you're like, I'm saying no to everything and just focusing on this. But I feel like you did it right. And most, I think, early entrepreneurs do it that way, where you're just saying yes to everything and going all in and just working hard. And then you start figuring out, what do I like? What do I enjoy? What do I not? What do I need to say no to? You can't do that without having that experience. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But at what point, when you're early in, you got your license at 20, started making some good money and started having some success. But at what point did you realize this is going to work and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I still haven't figured that out, Steve.
All right, let's do this. How about the rest of the next 15, 20 years, or however long you've been in the industry? At what point did you decide this is my career?
Yeah, no, like I said, 2021, I jumped in and had, some early success, but didn't have any structure, didn't have any systems, wasn't running a business. Didn't have any clarity around what I was doing, just kind of fumbling around. And that's another question that I ask a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm sure you guys ask the same, is like, how long did it take you to be fumbling around, so to speak, quote unquote, right, before you figured it out, right? Again, quote unquote, right? But, so, again, I think that, for me, it was years. I jumped in and I was young. Right. I mean, 21 years old. I was young. I was single. I was out having fun. I'm running around town. I'm, living my life. So it's like I was only working to kind of serve a purpose and only had to really take care of myself, just trying to make a couple bucks here and there, really going deal to deal. Right. Deal to deal. And that's a lot of, I think a lot of us in sales, not just the real estate industry, but a lot of us in sales, kind of get this deal to deal kind of a philosophy. We work hard, we get a deal, we back off. We work hard, we get a deal, we back off. Right.
Oh, man, it's so true.
You know what I mean? And it's just like getting away from this roller coaster type of an atmosphere. And, for me, that took years. And then, so I was an agent for a few years. 25 years old was when we actually opened the brokerage. You have to be in the industry for 3 years before you can do your own thing. So I did have that early entrepreneurial, I think, instincts or vision. And so 25 years old, we opened the brokerage, but we were still continuing to do our own thing, basically in sales. So yeah, continue. We continued on just doing sales. Working in the business, and it was actually 2012 where the real vision. So I mean, if you look at, I was in the business almost a decade before we truly had a vision of, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to create. We're going to rebrand ourselves. We're going to create a platform. We're going to start putting agents first. We're going to take a different mindset and a vision on the industry. Like I said, we're going to put agents first. We're going to put them in bright, shining lights. We're going to focus on them and their business. We're going to open up the playbook. Is one of the things I think we had a hand in kind of changing the industry to a little bit, at least here hyper locally, was opening up the playbook and just leading with abundance and value and helping agents grow their business. And I think people are attracted to that. I don't care what business you're in. I think people are attracted to that. So that's kind of where the vision started, really was in 2012.
Stat check me here, but was this kind of the start of the 11 million to 2 billion path in 5 years? Are those stats accurate? And if so, I want to hear what that roller coaster was like.
Yeah. I mean, I consider 2012, like I said, that first year for us in terms, so we were doing consistently, with our business in production, we were doing 9-10 million a year. We got up to 12-15 million, but that was just our production, doing deals, working in the business, so to speak. But in terms of the brokerage production, in terms of agents that we brought on, and partnered with, 2012 was essentially our first year, and we did 11 million in production that first year, going around the clock. We brought on 37 agents that first year, and like last year in a down year did 6 billion in sales. But it took a few years, a couple years. To go from 11 million in total sales in 1 year to a couple billion, 37 agents that first year to, we have months that we bring on 50 or 100 agents in a single month.
For the listeners that may not be as familiar with brokerage in the real estate industry, can you talk a little bit about why certain organizations would not pursue an agent first approach? What is the opposite, and why is that such an impact, and why is it not the standard?
We can't take all the credit as much as I would like to. We can't take all the credit. I do believe, though, I really do, that we had a hand in bringing that to the forefront. And as we had, thankfully, humbly, some success at that time, we were the new kid on the block. And so a lot of folks were looking at us like, man, we're these old dogs, we're these old brands that have been around for 50 or 100 years. Like, who are these guys and how are they competing with us and what are they doing? And one of those things was, like you said early along, is we made the decision, and I shouldn't say we made the decision, we recognized, okay, in this industry, in the real estate industry, it's about the agent. It's not about the brand. Right? Wherever you guys vacation, boys, I know you guys are all over the world, thankfully, right? When you guys are over in Maui, okay, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're like, hey, honey, like let's start looking at some real estate, or maybe we want to buy a vacation home in South Beach, Miami. I don't believe that people say, well, look, I gotta have a RE/MAX agent. Or I gotta have a Keller Williams agent, right? They don't say I gotta have a My Home Group agent, right? People work with the people that they know, like, and trust, and it's about the individual. And we recognize, and again, and I think this goes across the board to any sales industry. If you are in sales, you are in the human connection business.
Bamboo banger there,
right? Yeah. So we, in my humble opinion, we are in the human connection business. We have a responsibility to connect with as many people as we possibly can. And we have a responsibility to move that needle from a relationship to professional trust, right? And it's about the individual. So I could be with My Home Group. I could be with ABC. I could be with XYZ, but it doesn't necessarily matter. It matters with me as the individual. So we recognize that early along. And we put the agent in bright, shining lights, recognizing that it's about them. So that means supporting them, putting them to the forefront, celebrating them and their successes, allowing them to brand themselves, right? Just like a salesperson, no matter what you're doing, you need to be creating your own brand, right? You are the business and you are the brand, right? And so we allowed agents early along, and this is a decade plus ago, to brand themselves, right? So again, with all due respect to some of the other big box brands out there, it has to look a certain way. The logo goes here, and then your name goes here, right? And this is how it looks, and this is the only option that you can have on a business card or a website or a landing page, whatever it is. And we said, no, you know what? We're going to get outside the box. That's not how it is for us. You can do what you want, right? Put your name in big shining lights. Put your you have a team logo or your name logo or whatever it is. So that was one of the things I think early along, and it's just a belief system with us. Like I said, a human connection. It's about the agent and putting them first. Just like I said, it's about the salespeople across all industries putting them first. And I believe, like I said, we had a hand in others saying they kind of came along with that, and especially here hyperlocal.
What's awesome about that is, agents are 1099 contractors, right? They're on their own. They're not W-2 employees. Obviously, you got W-2 staff, but most agents are going to be commission based and contractors, right? And so they are their own business. They're an entrepreneur at this point. They are working for themselves. They're self-employed. They're freelance. They're earning commission. You're supporting them on the back end and all that stuff. But what you did is you made them not feel like a W-2 employee and that you're controlling every aspect. You're empowering them to take that entrepreneurial spirit and build their brand. We're going to be handling the back end. We're going to take a lot of operational resources off your plate. So they're never going to want to leave because they've got a front-facing business to the public eye and they got the relationships. And on the back end, my home group is powering their success. And by making that shift, I can see absolutely, I think a lot of industries started making that shift, but to do that in real estate was unheard of. It was obviously relationship building, but it was very much brand focused, as you said. And there's no doubt why you went from 11 to, millions to billions. Not just that, obviously there's a lot more to it, but it's a really cool, unselfish way of, hey, we're going to build something really neat here and we're going to build a big business. But to allow my agents to self-brand themselves and be themselves wholeheartedly without us intervening is an incredible, you don't see that across the country in many different industries.
And I'm connecting some dots here with you up at Summit, Kleven, because you and I grabbed lunch when you first joined Gento, and we had a great conversation, great time. But you really probably noticeably perked me up in the meeting when we were getting through mission values, really trying to put a brand to Gento. And you spoke up and said abundance mindset. And this is the definition of it. You're not putting the brokerage above. You see the big picture of if the individual is successful and is seeing success in their life, the brokerage takes care of itself. So that is really cool to see because it's not just something you said in that meeting, you're living it. And I can see why you were so convicted in saying it. Can you talk when that flip switched?
Yeah.
Switch flipped.
Yeah, something like that, right? I think that's another thing that we just had in our head, heart, and soul. I think it's just kind of part of our personal operating system. It shows up now in our core values that we put together for the company years and years ago. It's part of the fabric, I think, of how we operate. And if you don't have that as business owners or people in business period, or as in sales, if you're not leading with abundance and you're not leading with value, I think it's just people sniff that out. If you're about the deal or you're about the commission check or you're about that, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel authentic. And again, it's just been the one of the things that I think that we've had at our core, and just the human beings that we are, and we care, right? We care, and we're here and we're present. And a lot of business owners aren't. They're not present. They're sitting up in some ivory tower and they're just hoping everything goes smooth, or they have people to run it. And it's just we're here and we're present. And like I said, we're just trying to lead, like you said, with abundance and leading with value and putting people first. And if they have success, if your people have success, we'll have success. So when you come back to that branding thing real quick, people give us slack sometimes. Well, you guys are barely even on the sign. I barely even see your logo. Well, that's fine. That's fine. It's not about us, right? It's about our people. And if they're out there winning, and if they're out there having success, we're going to celebrate them. And that's a win for us. And we'll be fine. You know what I mean? It's above the ego and it's above the brand. But again, I just think as people, as human beings, that's what I love about the group that we're in with Junto. I mean, I love that we carve that into our mantra. It's just, if we are focused as human beings, as leading with value and abundance, man, what a life in a crew we could create, right?
Absolutely. So this is obviously okay, if I'm a real estate agent, I'm excited, right? This is a place I want to be with, having this mindset, a brokerage that would empower me to do this. but you're not taking, I mean, you've got thousands of agents across the country, but I mean, are you turning people down if they don't align with those core values? Is that, or you take, if they don't align, it's like, hey man, this isn't a fit, or hey gal, like this isn't going to work. Or are you taking as many as you can?
I mean, at this point in the game, and very thankful and humble to have, to be in a position of experience a little bit of success where at this point, we absolutely want to be in business with people. I've been talking a lot lately about their cleansing kind of going on right now. It feels like, and not just business, but in the world, and like people aligning with who they want to align with, and people doing business with who they want to do business with. And that's the same thing early along, right? It's a challenge, right? Because you're trying to grow a business. Like you guys said, it's like you're taking on everything, you're taking on anyone and anything, and you're doing whatever you got to do to grow the business. And you're like, this person's kind of walking the line, but oh man, I close a lot of deals, and oh man, right? Like we don't play that game at all, right? And
don't have to.
We've said early along, you don't have. You get to the point where you just don't have to. But we're thankful, man. I mean, we have so, and we put that out there as well. I was crystal clear since day one that we want good agents that are doing good business, that are taking care of the community, that ultimately want to grow and thrive and continue themselves leading with abundance, right? So we're very crystal clear with that. So we have some of the most productive agents and teams, not just in the state, but in the entire country, and they're a part of what we're doing. They're here. They're leading with abundance. They're teaching and coaching and part of our masterminds and helping those around us. And other agents are looking up to them for help. And they're
Here's the most brilliant thing about this, Kleven, is you're not branding my home group. They're branding themselves. So if they suck, it's a self-brand.
Right.
No one's going to want to work with them instead of, I don't want to work with Remax because that realtor sucked, right? Like it's the most brilliant move ever. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, part of it, hopefully.
Speaking of humbling,
so
Steven already alluded to it, but let's talk a little poker. And Steven and I fancied ourselves poker players in certain groups, but Summit was quite humbling in that regard, getting at the table with you, Zanzibar, some of the other guys. But and you have this ability to tie this back to business, the group, and everything. I haven't seen someone, and I appreciate the skill more than anything, to be able to switch and oscillate back and forth between serious, so let's say business, into lightening the mood. There's an art to that, and you're one of the best I've ever seen at it, whether it's the poker table or a meeting. And I want to know, is that just reps? This is back to nurture versus nature, but that oscillation and being able to map to the energy of the room, what it needs to shift a little bit, you're damn good at it. And where does that come from?
Phil, appreciate that, man. Very, very kind words. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that I have a crystal clear answer. I think, I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm a real guy, that I enjoy life. I want to have a good time. I want to enjoy my friends and my family, and I'm very thankful for everything I have and that's been provided. I think we live in a great place. We have a tremendous amount of opportunity. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and I'm not, numb to all that. And there's of course challenges, and I got stresses going on. You guys, don't even want to hear it. Right. But at the end of the day, like I choose and want to be a happy individual, and I choose to want to enjoy life. And it's not that serious, right? It's what we're doing is not that serious. And at the end of the day, like what else do we have besides our health, our family, our friends, and choosing to look for opportunities. And so, to make that switch, poker's a game I love. I've been playing it. I think, our guy, Chris Moneymaker in 2001, that jumped on the World Series.
I was a Hellmuth guy, but
I like Phil Hellmuth, Phil Ivey.
Dude, Daniel Negreanu was my guy.
It all hit us at the same time, it sounds like.
I know. We're all around the same age, so it makes perfect sense. I might have a few years on you guys, but it's all good. No, I was playing the game before that. I just grew up playing. My family played. My grandpa and grandma, like every time we go to their house back in the day, man, they're like, well, let's break out the cards. We're playing cards. So it just kind of got ingrained in me, we play for quarters or whatever. So that there's a little vested interest, nothing serious, but like make sure you're paying attention. Right. And so it's just one of those things, man. I love the game, and I love all the elements of the game. I love getting at the table with all the fellas, and doing whatever you may do, but talking, messing around, and just playing the game. It's a great game.
That time was what Moneymaker gave us all hope that we could come out of the woodworks and go against the professionals and win the World Series. And we had those starry eyes of like, oh, let's go to Vegas and put 10 grand
especially
down.
Especially when you're 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is high school for me. This is, 2003 was Moneymaker, I think. So I graduated 2004. Anyway, I used to run, we used to play poker junior, senior year of high school, at lunch tables for dollars. And then we would have poker tournaments on the weekends. And that's all we did. We didn't get in trouble with we weren't doing anything stupid. We just played cards all the time. That was the time to do it.
Jeremy, you brought up such a good point there that I think it's what hit me at Summit on the got to pay attention, because we had so many side conversations going there. Moving the game along got challenging at certain points, myself included. And I think that's what hit me is this is probably the worst New Year's resolution ever, but play more poker. I haven't played since we've gone up to the drafts, but I'm like, this is very applicable to the business world. Your ability to pay attention, calculate quick odds. It's a great hobby. And I'm like, that's something I really want to work back in a little bit more consistently.
Sometimes going with your gut and dealing with the results.
Think about that. Yeah. Think about that, right? I mean, there are a lot of, and I haven't really thought about this, so I'm just kind of, this one's on the fly, right? Is just the components that you can kind of fold in, no pun intended with the fold in, but that you can kind of weave into the business within poker, like the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right? You lose a big pot. Are you going to lose your head? What do they call that? On tilt. Right? Oh, he's on tilt. Now he's making bad decisions. That happens in business.
Can you have patience?
Oh, something bad. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, patience. Can you fold consistently for 5, 10, 20 minutes and not lose your patience or lose your cool and do something stupid just because you don't have patience? I can't tell you how many people I've played with growing up that you just know the guy. You just know he's losing his patience. He's going to do something stupid. It's coming, right? But and then again, like I said, that, or that bad beat or again, it happens in business to us all the time. What are you going to do now? Right? You got a bad beat, you experienced something bad, are you going to go on tilt, so to speak? Are you going to lose your cool? Are you going to compromise things any further? Or are you going to keep it together and stay focused and get back on track? Right? I mean, there's a lot of parallels.
Or poker in 2025.
I'm playing Saturday. It's funny you bring that up.
I'm with it.
It's fun.
Love it.
Not with Kleven though. Not anymore.
You guys, I was just going to say I'm still accepting invites.
0 for 2. Although I wasn't there for the.
We forgot Jeremy on that group text.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
Damn it, fellas.
Well, you had kind of going back to the My Home group and you talk about however much you want about this. Obviously, it's public knowledge, but you mentioned taking a few chips off the table, and there's a pretty big merger that happened at the end of last year, and you're talking about stresses and things like that. I'm sure that was pretty wild going through that process, and anyone who's built a successful business and not necessarily an exit, but looking to go through an acquisition or a merger or whatever, because you're still heavily involved. What is that like in managing the ups and downs in that process? And also the quiet period, right? You can't tell anybody this stuff's going on.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Right. Yeah. Strict NDA. And I had some of our people why didn't you tell us? I'm like, well, I couldn't, but excuse me. That is definitely is quite the process, right? It's a very humbling experience, when we've been contacted again, thankfully, humbly by every major player in the real estate space, right? From all the way from the top down. Cause again, and it's just, those didn't, obviously we hadn't done any of those opportunities and they just didn't make sense from us, whether it was a culture fit. I talk a lot about, heart, the heart is pure and the principles and the core values and all those things have to align first. But it's a very humbling thing when somebody approaches you and they're interested in what you're doing. Technically, again, it was a merger. They're the buyer, we're the seller. So yeah, took a few chips off the table. But absolutely staying around and want to be a part of what we're doing for a very, very long time to come. And, My Home Group stays the brand stays intact. we go forward. I'm here. We continue, like I said, to go on and go forward. We've basically become a subsidiary brand underneath the parent company. But for us, this is an opportunity. This industry is changing tremendously. There is a big need and desire, and I'll be real. I ignored it. I didn't ignore it. I tried to counteract or battle it or bang my head against the wall. But there's a major shift for agents, and I think everybody to a degree wanting to have a piece of ownership. Mm-hmm. Right? Yes, you're an independent contractor. Yes, you're running your own business and you're doing your own sales. And let's be real, that's where the money's at. And that's what agents should be focusing on. Okay. But there's also a lot of folks out there that are offering, whether it be stock options or stock grants or revenue share, and then the technology to do that. So that's the decision that we made. Is that we could go out and spend a tremendous amount of money taking a company public. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that process. Very long, very grueling,
That's
very
what
expensive.
I do every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So very long, very grueling, very expensive process, and then of course the yearly management of that to be able to do that going forward as well, and then the technology to build a platform that can manage the revenue share component, mm-hmm. right? When you're talking about now, we're partnered with 15,000 agents. We have 15,000 agents in the country now, in 40 plus states, and like I said, 15,000 agents, and so have the technology to manage all that. So, but again, at the end of the day, it checked all the boxes from the components of the core values, the heart being pure, the vision, the culture, the environment, but then you talk about the stock offering, the revenue share, the technology is cutting edge. And so it's just a beautiful partnership, and I see a really, really bright future. But like you said, that process is, I don't want to call it intense because it wasn't necessarily intense, but it's quite the process, and it's a lot, right? And I'm very thankful. My old man reminded me the other day, I don't know what the percentages are, but it's very, very high of people that start businesses mm-hmm. and either fail, let alone getting to the point where they can be acquired or merged.
Well, there's an insane stat out there, especially right now with baby boomers, small businesses that there's no buy, no one's scooping them up, so they just have to shut their doors. There's no retirement plan for that.
Their kids don't want it.
Yeah, their legacy plan didn't work out or whatever. And now this is obviously a lot more in the trades, perhaps, or restaurants, for instance. After 4 years, 80% of them are gone. It's just very challenging to have a thriving, consistent, what started as a small business to a big business, and then having that sort of, merger acquisition to get to that point. So it's kudos to you, man. It's incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Very honored, very humbled, and excited. We have incredible new partners and incredible new opportunity. And like I said, we're getting ready to launch here in the next couple of weeks. Our new technology platform can be cutting edge in the industry, especially in the state of Arizona. New comp plans and models and revenue share options for agents while they can keep their 100% model for us. I know this might be, foreign language to you guys, but for the agents out there, this makes sense. And it's unlike anything that exists right now in the state of Arizona, where an agent can have a 100% model with revenue share. So again, that's why we did this too. This is truly a pick your plan type of an option for an agent to truly go out and build their business how they see fit and build on the components that work within the confines of their business.
I'm getting my real estate license tomorrow. This is unbelievable.
Dude, let's go, bro.
Let's do this.
Dude, nice.
Oh, man. That's awesome. It sounds like you come from great roots. Your dad sounds like an awesome guy, and, sharing some of that with you and just picking you up. And, it's great to have parents that do that. And, so maybe some of that stuff that you've gone through and that confidence that you have and that ability to read the room, didn't fall far from the tree there. But, as we kind of get close to wrapping up here, we always end the podcast with a question. It's interpreted very differently with each guest. Everyone has their own perception of it. But if you were to define success, what does that look like for Jeremy Cleven?
Oh, I love this question too. Man, I could go a lot of different directions. Today I'm in the mood to to talk about, I would say, freedom, right? Again, if you get into a position, very, very thankful. Of course, we need to be running successful businesses, and we need to make money. We need to make money to take care of our families, and we need to take care of our people and to create more opportunities. At the end of the day, of course, we have to make money. I don't want to say that's the ante into the game, but of course, that's important. But one of the things that I focus constantly on is return on time. And folks want to talk about return on investment, and of course I do that too, ROI, but I'm more about ROT. If I can leverage costs or to free up my time, and or that return on time that I'm spending in a particular ventures. And again, I know we focus today on real estate. I'm in a lot of different businesses, 7 or 8 different ventures that I'm in that are thankfully all pretty successful and have great partners across a lot of different ventures. Again, the real estate is my backbone, but again, about that time. And so I'm looking for ways to leverage time constantly. I'll take it in even to my personal life, right? Is it the best return on time for me to clean my house? You know what I mean? I'm not just looking for an excuse for the wife to tell her I don't want to clean the house, but hey, look, my time's worth a little bit more. So if I spend it, now I have some time that I can spend with you. I can spend with the kids. I can go get something done that's actually going to help out our household and have a bigger impact. Just as an example, right?
Or just the time to
maybe you
think
hire someone
about the value you're bringing to the world. Just thinking time.
Absolutely. Yeah, thinking, creating some space mentally. Absolutely. And that's just as important as anything, creating some space. Right. So to me, that return on time or that return on space, right? Maybe you'll help me create a new one. ROS.
There you go.
We got a new ROS.
Now, those other businesses that you're a part of, was that part of the deal too? Is it all a bundle deal, or is that separate outside of my home group?
No, that's all separate. Yeah, that's all separate. Those are in various industries, largely surrounding the real estate industry for the most part. A couple ventures outside the real estate space that I've just, my big thing is people when it comes to that. Of course, diversifying. I'm sure we've all heard, the average millionaire has 7 different real estate, or 7 different income streams. And it just, for us, the real estate brokerage has been an amazing catalyst. An amazing catalyst to feed a whole bunch of other businesses. And so we just said, hey, look, we should probably have some ownership in these. And then again, like I said, very thankfully and humbly, once you have a little bit of success, you can start to kind of invest and look at some other ventures. But again, for us, it's all about the people. If I have the right people, the right partners, and I have
translate that to anything
if I have a little smaller, that's it. So if I'm all good having a little bit of a smaller share or of a smaller piece. If I have the right folks at the table with me, the right partners and the right partnerships, now we can drive and now we can build something special.
It's awesome.
It sounds like another podcast cooking up. I don't think this is going to be our last one.
No.
Such a great episode. Thank you so much for coming and joining us, and can't wait to continue to build together in Junto and everywhere.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you both. I appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys are leading right now with abundance, right? And the fact that you guys are taking time out of your day to put these together, and again, appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, keep doing your thing, fellas. Appreciate you guys.